Hello again, everybody out there in radio land. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. Sorry about that. I started out the show. We're having some technical difficulties. If you're watching online, we're not doing a video feed on today's episode. But let's go ahead and move right along. I wanted to start talking about what was going on at the YMCA last week, if you have or haven't heard about it. But essentially, what we were looking at was we had an employee who was fired or terminated essentially for wearing an ice out pin to work. And there's been some contention from the YMCA about why that actually happened. It's interesting if you look at the actual timeline of events because at first, basically saying they got dismissed for the pen, and then saying that it was actually about other issues. But yeah, it's so a lot of back and forth. It's really turned into a major PR disaster for the local YMCA. I'm going to read just a little bit from the story from M Live. Some Media Cipher alumnus Aya Miller wrote. Um, per the article, a woman says she was fired from the Kalamazoo YMCA for wearing an ice out pin, but officials from the YMCA say there's more to the story. Abby Thompson posted a picture of herself wearing an ice out pin and flipping off the camera on Facebook on Thursday, February 5th. The post received almost 600 reactions, comments, and shares. I just got fired from the YMCA of Greater Kalamazoo for wearing this because a member complained to the CEO, in case anybody wanted to know how they feel about immigrants, refugees, and human rights. The YMCA responded to Thompson's post with the Facebook post of its own, saying the organization is a nonpartisan environment. While the YMCA respects the rights of our staff to engage in personal advocacy and civil discourse outside of the workplace, our facilities must remain a neutral space dedicated to community service, the post read. After backlash, YMCA officials said that they should have released um, a long form statement with more information about the YMCA's core mission. The issue goes far beyond what is being presented to the community, said Vicki Kettner, the Kalamazoo YMCA's Director of Marketing, Community Relations, and Member Engagement. Um, they go on to say that the YMCA's original post said policies prohibit vulgarity or political displays in the workplace. But they also said the YMCA supports fundamental rights and human rights initiatives, Kettner said, and ICE agents aren't allowed in YMCA buildings. Staff are instructed to ask for identification, contact the police and the YMCA of Greater Kalamazoo CEO if they do arrive at the YMCA. Now, I do want to point out a couple of issues with this, which, this goes to institutional neutrality, which, as some folks at the YMCA has pointed out, this is not just something that exists in this kind of nebulous vacuum. There is the threat of consequences, the idea that the YMCA could be faced with, uh, either funding cuts or penalties for allowing the stuff on their properties from higher up. There is also, again, the government as it currently constructed is trying to root out any sort of resistance or errant wokeness, and there is that kind of fiduciary threat, implicit fiduciary threat to the YMCA that may exist. I think it is important to point this out because these people aren't lying. It's true. Actions do have consequences, but so does inaction or the action of firing an employee for wearing an anti-ice pen. And I would, from personal perspective of this radio host, I would offer that we are in a particular point in history where neutrality is, again, not only is it kind of a cowardly option, but it is also very much out of touch with reality. You're talking about oh, we need to maintain a non-partisan environment. If you look at a lot of recent polling, you have actually a lot of, at least among working people, a bipartisan consensus that ICE is, going too far, that they are abusing people's human rights. I would also say, from a historical perspective, it's important that institutions like these have the backbone to oppose fascism as it is calcifying and appearing. And that's essentially what is going on with ICE, make no bones about it. And ICE is trying to carve it both ways, where they're like, well, we will protect you from ICE, but we're not going to protect our employees from political blowback from fascists who come to visit the YMCA. So, yeah, it is, again, again, there are real concerns. What if the YMCA did, adhere, go to public pressure, and the public pressure coming out of Kalamazoo is don't fire this woman and stand against ICE. There are consequences for that, but I'd say the consequences for punishing an employee for exercising their free speech, again, which may be against your quote unquote company policy, but again, these are extraordinary times. ICE is going around acting as this kind of Gestapo force, this slave catching force for the federal government that is becoming more belligerent and openly fascist by the day. I would say the bigger risk would be to try to remain neutral on that particular kind of moving train. And, the community, I would say the community will take care of you, or, take care of the YMCA, that sort of thing. Which is, again, something we are going to have to lean on a government that is going to, they try to strip away funding because you respect, queer rights. This government is going to go after entities in Kalamazoo and everywhere else over anything, the slightest provocation. Better to kind of stand on your feet when you are in a situation like this and say, ICE out. Well, our particular chapter of the YMCA agrees with that, as does most of our base here in the Kalamazoo area. I wanted to kind of put a pin in this story by reading a statement. I think Southwest Michigan DSA put it very well. So I'm going to read their statement on the firing at the YMCA. Southwest Michigan DSA is appalled by the recent firing of a YMCA of Greater Kalamazoo worker for exercising their First Amendment rights and speaking out against the rise of fascism in our communities. At a moment when communities across the country are confronting escalating authoritarian threats, the YMCA's claim of political neutrality is anything but neutral. By refusing to stand with workers and community members against fascism, and instead imposing silence and compliance, the YMCA has failed to live up to its professed values as a welcoming and inclusive institution. The dismissal exemplifies a broader pattern in which capitalist corporations and nonprofits prioritize risk management over moral responsibility. Even as workers put themselves on the line to protect their communities, history repeatedly shows that these organizations do not defeat fascism, workers do. From the January 23rd strike in Minnesota to the thousands of volunteers confronting ICE and other authoritarian forces, it is organized labor that steps forward when institutions like the YMCA of Greater Kalamazoo fall short. Southwest Michigan DSA therefore calls on the YMCA of Greater Kalamazoo to do the right thing, immediately reinstate the fired employee and issue a public apology for the unjust termination. We also urge workers at the YMCA and across all institutions in Southwest Michigan to join us in building worker power. Southwest Michigan DSA maintains an active labor working group and stands ready to support unionization efforts throughout every sector of our local economy. Fascism will not be defeated through neutrality or vague statements. It will be defeated when workers organize, fight back, and collectively take control of their futures. We'll link to that article and that statement in the show notes. We're going to take a quick break. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR or online at widerfm.org. You can also find us online at Media Cyphers on Facebook, YouTube, and the Media Cyphers Kalamazoo podcast. which you can find on most podcasting apps. Keep your dial locked. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers, your source for political. Hello again, everybody out there in Radio Land. Y'all are listening to Media Cyphers only on 89.1 WIDR. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my lovely face again. Our got the internet connection was restored. So um, the next story I wanted to talk about, this is all over Kalamazoo Reddit, and you may have heard about this. If again, I run in a lot of the circles. It's like the Venn diagram overlaps on this one, but there's a story coming out of the People's Food Co-op. There's been a lot of chaos going down over there, and we're going to try to break it down. And this was actually a story I had kind of a hard time wrangling my hands around. I had to do a lot of research, my own research, and got and I appreciate all the help from the community in that research too. Lawrence, how are you doing today?
Yeah, so Wild Lawrence has appeared.
Yeah, it's
I'm
good to
doing
see
good.
you. So,
I'm doing good. How are you?
oh, good. Well, I'm about to cover the story about the People's Food Co-op, which I really think it's a big. This is really a good story about. Well, it's not a good story, but it's a story about kind of small D democracy. And like, I don't know, have you heard about any of the hubbub for the People's Food Co-op, or are you kind of coming in cold on this?
I'm coming cold on this. I haven't heard anything about this. I'm the stories that I've been researching or I've been looking up. Like, yeah, I haven't been looking at a lot of local stuff. So what's going on with the food co-op?
Okay, um, so this story kind of broke in our circles about when was this originally posted? Several days ago. It was and You may have seen it on change.org. PFC owners want accountable and transparent leadership practices. But the long and short of it is that so the People's Food Co-op, the way that it works, it's unique in that it is meant to be community owned. The owners of the People's Food Co-op are the hundreds of community members who put a financial stake into it, and we all collectively own it. Now there has been an issue at the towards the end of last month where the general manager was fired. They were replaced by the at the time board president. The board president um, stepped in to be the interim general manager, which actually was not how their procedure is supposed to go according to the bylaws. And then we've been seeing reports of that particular interim general manager alt firing other employees hastily and also intimidating owners who have been trying to ask questions as well as some of the workers. Um, so let me just I actually I'm just gonna break this down real quick from the beginning, and then I'll kind of get to what I think is really the big crux of the story. Um, so that interim general manager that we keep referring back to, that's James Bridgeforth, and he was the board president for a number of years. Originally was a member of, or sorry, a vendor over at the farmers market. Um, and just based on like things that I've been looking at, they've been having issues with transparency since 2024. The board over at the People's Food Co-op has not been publicly posting meeting minutes since 2024, which is ultimately the responsibility of the board. I also wanted to point out, so just to kind of be a little bit more specific about what this thing that happened towards the end of January, where you had the on the 28th. You had Bridgeforth appoint themselves interim general manager, which actually does not fall. They fired the former general manager under dubious circumstances. Actually, this whole move actually caused several of the board members at the People's Food Co-op to resign. I think that's when people were first starting to get wind that like something is amiss at the People's Food Co-op. Um, and then James stepped down and appointed themselves the interim general manager, which is not how that succession is supposed to go. You can actually go read their public bylaws, and you can see who's supposed to be appointed. And what's dubious is like so James Bridgeforth, being the board president, that's a volunteer position. They put themselves in a position where they're now going to get paid, and they have this kind of um, boss's authority slash responsibility over the employees of the People's Food Co-op. And then he appointed the current chair, is Ellis, is their cousin-in-law. So, by looking at this from a couple of angles, certain things start to smell. But ever since this happened towards the end of last month, there's been reports, as I said, of retaliatory firings, of the community owners being threatened by police for asking questions on the property. There's even been reports of workers being intimidated off the clock. And recently, James Bridgeforth, who was the board president, now is the interim general manager, sent this, or no, it was Ellis, sorry, Ellis Martin, who sent an email, basically everything is fine email. Lori Atwater, who is the vice president of the board, responded very succinctly and said, as a duly elected director, I want it known that I repudiate the recent statement of the PFC Grocery and Deli Board of Directors signed by the current president, Ellis Martin, in email to the ownership. I did not approve this verbiage and was outvoted. I disagreed with several contentions at base. I maintain that disruption has indeed occurred. Bylaws, policy, and procedures were not adequately followed. A misinterpretation of the word emergency in the secession plan was made. I stand for the PFC bylaws, policies, and procedures, and the cooperative principles we must operate under. I stand for the owners of this cooperative and will continue to do so. So I've kind of sketched out again the what, because I think it was a lot to unpack when I first started. And I would even say like some of it is a little bit vague unless you really kind of dig a little bit deeper. Um, and the main points I really want to get across with this story, this is an ongoing crisis, and there are things that you can do. And I want to point to there's an update from the change.org petition, um, and they detail some more basically allegations of the interim general managers mismanagement. Um, they claimed basically, excuse me, according to the change.org petition, PFC was in a strong financial position on January 25th, 2026. It has been reported that they were claiming that they are in a much more tenuous financial position. And since this happened, they terminated 3 buyer level employees, leaving PFC unable to perform crucial functions. Employees are reporting frequently experiencing emotional distress due to a hostile work environment that they have fostered. One has already resigned. They have demonstrated an inability to ensure the store remains functional. Examples include incorrect pricing in the POS system for co-op deals and other items, an inability to perform simple that POS point of service, if you've ever worked in retail, tasks like printing receipts and processing returns, and closing the store during business hours after hiring an contracted unauthorized vendor to work at the co-op's leased computer server. Misuse of authority. They've attempted to move a no trespass order against a staff member working their shift. They also asked a police officer in the store to trespass a co-op owner in good standing. Kind of referred to this earlier, without success, and threatened to revoke their membership following a calm inquiry about a price discrepancy and action outside their authority as interim general manager. It points to a larger pattern of using police to intimidate employees and owners, such as calling the police when he fired the retail manager. And I'm gonna sorry, I know this is kind of long-winded, Lawrence. My apologies, but let me break down the story, and then I'm gonna loop back to kind of what the change.org petition is calling for. And I really wanted to get to the crux of the story. And there are some speculations I've seen about Mr. Bridgeforth's motivations. Some are speculating they might have designs on dissolving the co-op or selling assets. I did not find enough information to corroborate anything like that. There are there was some gestures towards projects that the PFC was moving forward on that didn't come to fruition, but I'm not really going to comment on that. But what I will say is what we are seeing from these reports is this kind of sort of incompetent and dictator style leadership style from the leadership of a community institution that is supposed to be democratic by design. It's the people's food co-op. It's owned literally by people in the community who put their money into the PFC. The owners are community members who buy that stake into the store. The workers are supposed to be those community members made responsible for carrying out that vision of the owners. That's the way this is supposed to function. And this type of behavior is emblematic of the sort of petty bourgeois power tripping that you find in certain types of small business owners, rather than the type of horizontal organization a co-op is supposed to be. And from the outside, or where I'm standing, it seems like it's a complicated issue with a lot of layers. And there are, but the absolute core of it is that the People's Food Co-op is supposed to be a counterexample to the profit above all else ethos of most big and even small businesses. The PFC was designed from inception as an entity by and for the community, and recent moves from leadership belly an old conservative talking point. It reminds me of that old adage, let's run government like a business. They're trying to run this community, what is really supposed to be a community service slash institution, like this very kind of personal for-profit business they could just do whatever with. The current management is engaging not only in kind of run-of-the-mill incompetence, but exposing a deep contradiction. It's what is the purported mission statement philosophy of People's Food Co-op. I think this is why people are really so upset about this. It hits deeper, even in other stories we've run in the past about local businesses running afoul of their workers. I'm reminded of about 2 years ago, we did that big story on what was going on at Crow's Nest. And while Fourth Coast and Crow's Nest have been this critical third space in the Vine neighborhood for decades, it is not directly owned by the people of the neighborhood. It is run. That business is run at the discretion of a single owner operator with their own interests. The People's Food Co-op is structurally supposed to be different. It's supposed to be an example of a grocery store in a third space that is run by the community. And sorry, I've got just a little bit more to say here. So, from the reports that we're getting, it seems as if the former board president, the current term general manager, does not seem to just understand this core philosophy or doesn't want to. The glass half full on this issue is that because of the People's Food Co-op's bylaws and the democratic community owner structure, there is more to do than just watch and be disappointed from afar. Those who have put a stake in the ownership in People's Food Co-op can exercise that and use their power to try and right the ship. And the change.org petition does lay out a concise summary and gives you some ideas on how to push for change. They do not recommend, they said, do not boycott the store, but they said focus on the board, be respectful and courteous, direct all actions and comments to the board of directors, not the interim general manager. The IGM is accountable to the board of directors, and the board is accountable to the owners. They elected these leaders to uphold those cooperative values and make responsible decisions. invite an open forum. Say email board@pfckalamazoo.coop and ask the board for clear instructions on how owners can attend the next board meeting to make their concerns known, and urge transparency. Urge that same email address and ask the board to provide meeting minutes. None have been posted since 2024, as we mentioned earlier. Urge transparency regarding PFC's financial position and status of owner equity. And I have one last kind of thing to say about this. Um, so full disclosure, I'm not one of the community owners of PFC, but I shop there pretty often. I've spent time there. I've laughed and chatted with, uh, other shoppers and employees. I've spent time there for lunches and snacks. It is a part of my community. And I think it's easy, we for the actions of Bridgeforth are pretty audacious. I think it'd be easy to blame everything on them, though, because as we always point out on the show, we need to look at the structural issues that make it possible for people like Mr. Bridgeforth to behave the way they do. And one of the things I couldn't really unravel in this story is like, how did Mr. Bridgeforth end up becoming president and doing all this? Like, it's this community structure that's supposed to be inherently democratic. He's acting in a very non-democratic way. How did he get the leeway to maneuver like this? That was a big question. I wasn't able to really find a satisfactory answer for. And I think what this situation illustrates, just like with a lot of other major issues in our communities, is that, again, democracy is a two-way street. It does involve, we need like engagements, and we need to watch it, and that's one of the things we really stress on the show. And I'm not trying to like, say like, oh, you guys didn't do a good enough job watching the co-op. It's obviously, we all have lives and we all this and that. But it does show how sometimes people can kind of take advantage when they feel they have room to maneuver this way. I mean, the president is a great example of that. Um, and it's kind of to make a parallel with national issues, it sometimes takes a crisis to get people out of their chair. The current national crisis of democracy, of fascism, did not happen in a vacuum, and it did not come out of thin air. It's the culmination of years and decades of neoliberal economic policy, imperialism, colonialism, white nationalist belligerence. The overt nature of the Trump administration is bringing out millions into the streets, whether you're thinking of the No Kings protests or the organic resistance to ICE in places like LA, Chicago, and Minneapolis. But you remember ICE existed and was grown under both the Obama and Biden administrations. You'll even hear conservative Democrats praise how those administrations carried out mass deportations more quietly and politely. The Trump administration is playing in the sandbox that system built. And Bridgeforth, according to what we've been hearing, he's been doing these kind of audacious, outrageous things. He's this outrageous character. But we have to, I think we need to also think like, how did we get in a position where we had somebody, much like, the presidential administration, how did we get to a place where somebody was allowed to have the leeway to maneuver the way that they are? And I think that's a deep question we need to ask. I mean, the first order of business is especially people in the community trying to save the People's Food Co-op. But I'd say a deeper question is like, how do we provide institutional safeguards to prevent something like this from happening again? Um, so again, I'm sure we'll be given updates on this issue as it moves forward. But I felt a responsibility to do kind of a deeper dive on this particular story. A lot of people were talking about it. I was asked to cover it, directly by a lot of people in the community, and that is the extent of the knowledge and analysis that I have at this time. But we'll be talking about this, I'm sure, more in the future, and we'll be linking all the change.org petition in the show notes. Sorry, I know that was pretty long-winded, Lawrence. I don't know if you have any comments on that. But yeah, that was the People's Food Co-op, or the People's Food Co-optation. Then maybe that'll be like the tagline or the headline for that one. But we'll see.
Your co-op, your food co-op TED Talk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, man, I mean, I'm sad that um I'm sad that that's going on in our community. You know what I'm saying? I'm always standing for workers being paid fairly and I want what's best for the people that are involved. You know what I'm saying? Leadership, but also workers. I care about the workers, the people who are making them a wage, right? The people who are on the ground all the time, who the store would not operate if it wasn't for them, right? Them and their
Mhm.
labor. Um, I also just wish that uh they would get their stuff together. They just need to get their stuff together because we can't have co-ops like other businesses that are like when we're talking about capitalism and things of that nature, your standard business can fail and no one will ever say it's because of capitalism that they failed, right? They will blame that individual, right? um but when you have a co-op, the system of a co-op will be blamed for why that store isn't working. So when people on the left are doing leftist policies or doing leftist ideals, we don't have the luxury to not make it work, right? Because if we
Yeah,
make it,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
because just like it's not fair, but that's the reality. So I hope that they can get their stuff together.
Yeah, yeah, me too. And like that's a really good point too, because like, it's something that like people on the right can latch on to. It's like, oh, see, they tried to do a cooperative business and it failed, or blah blah. Despite again, despite the fact that like again, there's a very long it sounds like there's like you know some individual kind of bad actors who were bringing us to this point. But yeah, it will be used as like this is an example of the failures of socialism, or that sort of thing. um and it is man, I don't know. The first thing that popped in my head, like hearing about like the story and the potential ramifications of it, it's like, oh Lord, it's please don't let me wake up in 4 years and there's like a Whole Foods at that location. That's not it's just, um these institutions are super important. They're super important. And yeah, it's definitely really important, I think, for the owners to take the reins, demand accountability, and re-steer the ship, because at this moment, there is that concern about like whether or not basically it puts into question the feasibility of projects like this at a time where they are going to be more necessary than ever.
Right.
hmm
Yeah, pretty
um
much.
well, with that, I wanted to move on to another community story, although this kind of links into national news. Um, you may have heard, Lawrence, there's a really huge meeting over at, well, I think it was hosted by the Crawlspace Eviction folks. But there was this panel with Julie Rogers and Drew Duncan, who's the vice mayor, Sheriff Fuller, and a local or an organizer with the ACLU, Willie Eggers. And this was, I think it was like it was last Thursday. And before I break down kind of what the politicians and elected officials said, I do want to say kudos to the people. It was standing room only, and they actually had to turn back like hundreds of people who were not. They did not have capacity to fit everybody in, and I call that a good problem to have. Um, but yeah, I'll talk a little bit about um, you know so. Drew Duncan was very outspoken about ICE, and he really did say, really with his full chest, he does not want, like, I do not want people getting kidnapped in my community. And, he was talking about ways to resist ICE. The one thing that I thought was kind of missing from uh, what Duncan had to say, though, is, he is on the city commission. And the question, when you're the vice mayor, the question is not like, oh, what can the community do to organize around ICE? I mean, if we want to answer that question, we can let's just look at what our comrades in LA and Minneapolis and Chicago have been doing. Like, we have a pretty good, we have some good examples to lean on. But the question is more pointed, like, okay, you're on the city commission. What is the city commission going to do? It's like, what are you going to push for on the city commission? I think that was kind of missing from some of that, is because, like, like, look, I appreciate the sentiment that you are firmly against ICE, and you okay, you're going to be standing shoulder to shoulder with the community against ICE. That's great. But you know, and maybe the answer is the city can't do that much, but you have to at least get creative and think about things the city can do. And, like, one of the things that's being pushed is a ban. DSA is pushing that really hard, and that is something that the city can concretely do today to make it harder for ICE to operate around here. But that they've really been kind of slow walking that. There's a lot of trepidation around doing anything about the flock cameras. Uh,
I
and
mean, we have cameras all over the north side and south side. We have Mayor Mondani in New York basically saying ICE cannot uh, go into businesses or go into people's houses with a judicial warrant. Actually just amplifying, doing the law and order thing and just saying, hey, these are the laws on the books. These are the federal law, and they're breaking the federal law. They cannot operate. That's what we can ask of our local officials to do, is hold up the standard of the law. And that if you see ICE in our community breaking the law, then you arrest them because they're criminals.
yeah, and with that, I want to loop back to what Sheriff Fuller had to say, and kind of, yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's something that kind of popped in my mind listening to Sheriff, reading Sheriff Fuller's statement. They said the sheriff office does not enforce federal immigration law, nor are we part of the current enforcement actions being taken by the federal government. It's important to me, it's the staff of Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office, that our community has the confidence to come to us when they have the need for our help. Um, Now this is um, kind of a problem, because so he goes on to say uh, they don't receive advance notice when federal immigration authorities plan operations. And he said the local agencies use a system called deconfliction to avoid overlapping enforcement actions by letting each other know what and where they're taking action, but federal immigration agencies do not participate. Um, and he said, I'd like them to participate, to, like, let us know. And, like, the problem with this is, the community is coming out, not asking, like, what do you think about ICE? They were there. It's like, how are you going to defend people from ICE? And, one of the things that I think people are like, and, I think this is kind of naive, but they're expecting, like, would the police intervene when like you said, if the federal agents are doing something illegal? And I feel like this is kind of an answer by omission. I don't, Sheriff Fuller, as far as I could tell, didn't really offer, that level of intervention. Um, and, yes, police might show up on the scene, but what we've seen is they basically just observe, more or less, and in some instances, we've seen local police actively assist ICE. Um, and again, Sheriff Fuller might be saying is not necessarily uh, what might be how some of the rank and file folks in the sheriff's department are operating. And it's like, would there be consequences if some personnel from the sheriff's department assisted ICE? Um, I don't really think so. At least I don't think there's anything to that effect. I also want to point to just a few years ago where we had to put and that we speaking Movimiento Cosecha when they were still operating out of Kalamazoo had a huge public pressure campaign to try to get Sheriff Fuller to not do ICE holds at the county jail. And again, this is somebody who's like an elected Democrat, right? And this is during the first Trump administration. It's like no ICE holds in Kalamazoo County Jail, and that was a campaign that took months and months and months to push them on, and eventually that campaign did win. But I'm just trying to point out it was not in like necessarily the natural instincts of even like some of these Democratic local elected officials to uh, have a policy of non-cooperation with ICE. And as far as they're basically saying like we are not going to directly do immigration enforcement, but that doesn't really say much to the threat of organized goons coming into the community to assault and potentially murder people, which is what ICE has been doing around the country. So again, it feels a little bit out of step with where we're at this historical moment.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, if you want the community to feel better about your leadership and your actions, then maybe reinforce the fact that you will do everything in your power to protect the community and also not working with these fascist monsters. You know,
Yeah,
sound
yeah.
uh sounds simple to me.
hmm No, absolutely, 100%. But I didn't have too much else on that story, but I will link the article. I don't think there's if there is a recording of the panel, I will try to find it and link to it in the show notes. I couldn't easily find one. I can't remember. I think I was doing some family stuff that night. I couldn't make it. Well, even if I did, I probably wouldn't have gotten it. But this is but yeah, I'll link to the article in the show notes, and if I could find like if there's like a video of the panel, I will link to that also. Um, all right, Lawrence. So again, I think that's about it as far as local stories go. There was a lot that took out like the whole first hour. Um, where's something you might want to talk about? I know there's some other stories we
And
really wanted to hit on.
I mean, we talk about usually we don't talk about uh culture like culture stuff and like usually we talk about hip hop culture and stuff once in a while on the show because we both are big hip hop heads. Um, I just wanted to shout out real quick, just as a quick hit, Jermaine Cole, aka J. Cole. Uh, he dropped the fall off last week. It's a two disc album. You know what I'm saying? We ain't seen two disc albums in a long time. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about like old DMX, you know what I'm saying, and things of that nature. And before that, he was dropping mixtapes and stuff. But the album's fire. The album's dope, and I just want to shout him out. Um, he went back to North Carolina. He went back to the Carolinas, especially North Carolina, and was selling the CDs out the trunk of his car, like on some old school hip hop stuff. Yeah, like the coming up rapper. You know what I'm saying? It warmed my heart, like to see the love and attention that he was getting from his own community. Um, how his music is still amazing. You know, even after everything, the whole debacle, with the big three and all that stuff, and everything that's been going on in that man's career, the man is still an amazing artist. And
hmm
and and in my opinion, I think he does not get a lot of the respect and love he deserves. But I just want to shout him out. This is also the same man. I don't know. I don't think we covered it when it happened in 2004, before the election. He was looking for an electric car, and he was in, I think, a Tesla dealership looking for an electric car in 2024, like early in 2024. And J. Cole doesn't wear super flashy clothes. He looks, like a normal, regular person. Like, kind of, you could almost say bummy, right? And the store people kicked him out. They thought he was a bum.
Oh, that's right.
Like,
Yeah, I remember
yeah,
that.
like, and one of the fans that was there, one of his fans that were there, they recorded the whole thing. Like, cause he's looking around he looks like his normal self. He got his backpack on. He has his locks. He's doing his natural locks. He has some shorts on, a t-shirt. He just looked like a regular dude. And the salespeople like literally kicked him out the store. They thought he was a bum, right? And
Yeah.
I'm just like the beauty of that, of him as an artist, as a person. He said it before in his lyric. I'm a man of the people. I'm not above. I'm equal. And he walks around. He walks in that spirit, and you see it all the time at night. And that's why he was walking around with no security guards, selling his music out the trunk of his car. Right? Like,
Hmm.
crazy, crazy, man. Also, I want to give a quick shout out, and this is another quick hit, and then we can move on. I want to thank Turning Point USA for showing in during Black History Month that separate but equal does not work.
Oh my God, that's a beautiful
So
way to
thank
put
y'all
that.
for showing that separate but I want again. We are teaching. Use these platforms to learn, folks. I've been using. I've been. This is Black been a wonderful Black History Month for me. I've been posting about different books that I want people to check out. So it's 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 my thing to want to. I want to give people the credit. I want to give people grace so they can learn and elevate. And I also want to give people credit for being stupid. And TPUSA and all of the Republicans, all the GOP now, the guardian of the pedophiles. You know what I'm saying? That's what they stand for now.
Yeah,
Um, chose to have a separate but equal Super Bowl halftime show, and it was botted, and and you could tell that it's botted when you tried to watch the video live on YouTube or wherever they were posting it. Because at first they couldn't play it on YouTube or on X. And again, God doesn't like ugly. This is why this is a proof of concept that God doesn't like ugly. Y'all couldn't stream it anywhere. So when they did play it, uh, when you have it live, you have your live chat. The live chat would be moving. People would be reacting to it, commenting on it, right? The live chat did not move. The live chat did not move on this televised performance, which means, yeah, it was pre-recorded. Yeah, they tried. Yeah, the show was so white that it went to speak to the manager. Like, it's all of those things, all the jokes, and also Kid Rock forgot his own songs, and he had started lip singing, and will you find out later afterwards that Turning Point USA paid 250 people as extras to show up and be in the audience because nobody wanted to be there. Just like how Trump paid, what was it, 50 to 100 people to show up at his press conference when he ran for president the first time. It's AstroTurf, bro. It's it's AstroTurf. While Bad Bunny, the American Bad Bunny, has the highest viewed Super Bowl halftime show of all time. Michael Jackson said it years ago, and for over 30 years, his record was not broken until Kendrick broke it, and now Bad Bunny broke Kendrick's record. And I want
yeah.
I want to remind everybody because because a lot of people don't know this. Here's some Black history facts for you. The Super Bowl halftime show, the reason why the halftime show exists, the way that we understand it now in modern day, is because of a TV show that was on Fox News called In Living Color. That was created by Keenan Ivory Wayans, the oldest brother of the Wayans brothers, right? And if you don't know who Keenan Ivory Wayans is, Low Down Dirty Shane. He's been a mover and shaker in Hollywood and a producer and an actor. He's phenomenal comedian. Their whole family's phenomenal comedian. They did a sketch comedy show called In Living Color. It's what Mad TV stole. Mad TV stole their ideas, right? Um, Also, they stole their ideas from John Leguizamo's pilot sketch show too. That's a whole other thing. But I forgot what Super Bowl it was. In Living Color did a halftime show. They did a halftime show, and they stole over 100 million viewers from the football game during that halftime. And they also made some jokes that was probably inappropriate at the time. You know, white people don't like when black people make jokes. It is what
Yeah.
it is. That next year, the NFL said, "What can we do to counter this?" And they paid Michael Jackson to do the halftime show. And this is why the modern halftime show is what it is. So it's
Yeah.
it was because of black excellence, and I don't like black excellence. Like black excellence is the problem, and that's a totally different conversation. But the black excellence of In Living Color, and then the black excellence of Michael Jackson is the reason why the halftime show exists now.
That's fascinating. It's funny because like I'm a fan of all of those things you just mentioned, but I had never heard that story. That's pretty amazing. And yeah, in Loving Color, if you're a fan of like, again, kind of history of, especially like black entertainment, that's kind of like that was a very early example of. I think it's like if you're familiar with kind of the humor in like Chappelle's show, which would come along about 10, 12 years after that was kind of a precursor to that sort of stuff in like the late 80s, early 90s. And yeah, no, that's crazy. I never really stopped and thought about when they start the halftime show. That's wow, that makes a lot of sense. Um, Another thing I'd like to point out is I remember like it was an episode we did a few years ago, or maybe more recently, but I said like you can't force people to like because the culture wars, which apparently were all pre-planned by Jeffrey Epstein, as we've just found out. Um, but like so much of the culture wars is like trying to project your bad taste onto others. And
Yeah.
in the marketplace of ideas, um your halftime show gets between 4 to 6 million compared to what was Bad Bunny's I think it was closer to 128,
No,
but that does
no,
not include all of
I got a
the
number for you. Hold on,
we're talking about.
wait. I got a number for you. Hold on, a second. Let
Yeah.
me find it. Uh, so also, just that discord around that is some of the dumbest things. I want to remind people: Phil Collins, The Who, U2, The Weeknd, Rihanna, um, the Beatles, Paul McCartney. All of them are not United States citizens. All of them are not United States citizens, and there was no problem when they played. You had none of that
Hmm,
backlash.
yeah.
Remember, all of those old bands came after Janet Jackson, the whole Janet Jackson thing, where Justin Timberlake messed up Janet Jackson's career. Never forgive Justin Timberlake for that because he's a word I can't say on the radio. But uh, if you want to go Complex, shout out to Complex because Complex put this together. The highest viewed Super Bowl halftime shows of all time. You have number 5, Katy Perry, with 118.5 million viewers, right? You have number 4, Rihanna, with 121 million viewers. Michael Jackson, who set the record with 133.4 million viewers. I want to remind you, he set that record back in the 90s. I think it was 95, if I remember correctly. That Super Bowl halftime show. which is crazy to think of. That was during the era where you had to go to the store to buy the music, where you had to go in, you had to go if you wanted to burn CDs, or you didn't even have CDs. If you wanted to make cassettes, Walkman, you had to pull it from the radio when it played. You know what I mean? There was no playback, right? K
Hmm.
Dot, Kendrick Lamar at number two with 133 million point five 133.5 million viewers. Bad Bunny is number one with 135.4 million views. And it's only going to get bigger because the NFL is planning on having 11 games in Ireland and in
Uh,
South America. They're trying to expand American football, and head injuries to the rest of the world. So, so, so yeah, it's one of those things where we are we are we're exploiting guns and labor, right? And if this is and because for the longest time we had a Super Bowl of being world champions, but we only played against ourselves, which is one of the most redundant things I've ever heard in my life, right? So now the NFL is trying to expand their market. They're expanding their market into other places. And now the rest of the world, when the Super Bowl comes by, they're gonna start watching, which means more viewers are gonna see it. And if every time they have an artist that can touch on multiple cultures all at once, uh, it's going to be a problem for the people who are like, this isn't real American. They're not speaking English. It's going to be a problem for them. It's always going to be a problem for them. And I want you to know it's okay. It's okay that you didn't understand what he was saying. It's okay that you didn't catch the wonderful representation that Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin and Cardi B and Jessica Alba and Pedro Pascal. It's okay that you didn't understand the dancing or what he was saying or the symbolism of him giving his Grammy to the little 5-year old that looked like
yeah.
the kidnapped
Oh, the light blue Puerto Rican flag, which
flag.
was, I think, illegal. That was illegal to fly up until I think like the 70s or 80s in Puerto Rico because that was the pre-colonial Puerto Rican
So
flag.
it's cool that you didn't catch any of the symbolism of them, of the dancers on the electrical poles because of the devastation that the hurricane did in Puerto Rico and how this is American territory, and how America did not do its job, and how Trump didn't do his job in the first administration to make a Puerto Rico whole. But he did make them a tax haven. This is the reason why Jake Paul and other troglodytes went down there. They went down there to escape, to avoid taxes. So yeah, it's it's one of those things where we can celebrate their culture. Also, talk about how America screwed them over and basically is treating them the same way that we treat Hawaii, but worse
Mhm.
because Hawaii is an actual state, even though we still colonize them. But America Samoa, um, Guam, the American Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, these are all American territories. And I think I'm missing one, but they're all American territories, and that's around 5, 6 million Americans that do not have equal representation, and including Washington D.C. because Washington D.C. is not a state. So again, when we talk about America and in culture, love, grace, and understanding that, and the main message that was being showed was that the only thing that's stronger than hate is love. That was what Bad Bunny was showing. Even if you miss all the political stuff, and also shout out to Bad Bunny, bro. You let that couple that got married, you told them that you couldn't do the show because you were doing the halftime show, and you asked them would they rather get married in front of the world, and you let them have their wedding at your Super Bowl show. That's dope. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I wanted to speak to so this is basically the second year in a row where we've had I will call it like a politically subversive halftime show. Now the bar is kind of low when you're subverting an administration that are full of internet troll white nationalists, but it's subversive nonetheless. And I think it's interesting because if there's really no better weather vane for like the American body politic than something like the Super Bowl, because like most America watches it. It doesn't, there's not like, it's not divided along political lines. Um, and, the thing is, and I think this is what outrages the far right so much, is that, like the NFL would not book Kendrick Lamar or Green Day or Bad Bunny if they thought it would turn people off or it wouldn't make them money. Like they
Also, if it
the
wasn't for
NFL people, lick their finger, stick it on there, and it's like, yes, this is who we need to put on because this is where most of the country is at. This is what they want to see. And, I gotta say, there was something kind of surreal as a millennial watching Green Day open the Super Bowl, literally playing anti-Bush songs and like the most nationalist pastime in the United States. That was pretty wild. I don't think there's quite as much commentary on that, but like that was because again, Holiday is explicitly an anti-war, anti-Bush song. So is American Idiot, both of which they played. Of course, there are limits to that. Some of you may heard that certain parts of the songs were censored. So they censored "I'm not part of a MAGA agenda," and I believe they also censored a part. So there's famous breakdown in Holiday where like the representative from such and such has the floor, and I believe at the Super Bowl. Billy Joe Armstrong said the representative from Epstein's Island has the floor.
what?
So like, but I believe that got censored too. So like, there are still limits where they're like, this is what this stuff that is explicitly challenging power and is speaking truth to power. This is what the viewers of the Super Bowl are going to like. This is what they want to see. At the same time, we don't really want to piss off the Mad King that much, so we're going to maybe like edit a couple things out. So, yeah. Also,
Yeah.
just as to top it off, Bad Bunny's halftime performance was playing at Mar-a-Lago. Like Trump was like, "Kid Rock for thee, not for me. I want to watch the good halftime show with my Big Macs and Diet Coke."
Uh, but but that's the right wing as a whole, bro. I mean, also, it's not a good look for Trump to be playing Kid Rock. I want to remind everybody, Kid Rock has a song called "Cool Daddy Cool"
Oh,
where he brags about statutory rape, like
they
statutory.
say it's statutory. I say it's mandatory. And wait, wasn't
Yeah,
that on the Osmosis Jones soundtrack or something really weird?
bro, I think it was, bro. I think it was,
It was
bro.
like on
I'm
a
not
kids movie soundtrack. Like what? The
sure, bro.
2000s were a different time, folks.
God,
It's just
bro, I'm
early 2000s.
it's one of those things. It's one of those things when I think about it, and I'm just like, I uh, I laugh. We were laughing so we don't cry, right? It's always one of those things. But when you're being when you're saying he's not American, forgetting that Puerto Rico is an American territory, right? This is the same place in the first administration where he was throwing towels at people. Okay,
Yeah,
if I was Bad Bunny, I would have threw a towel at the TV during that scene with the during that whole showcase with the electrical wires. Yeah, I would have threw a towel at the TV at the screen. You know what I'm saying? Like just so y'all understand what I'm trying to say, right? I and also the Winter Olympics is also going on at the same time,
that's
and
true. Yeah.
that's also a thing that I wanted to bring up because you have the the American athletes being interviewed, and some of them are being very candid, being like, "Nah, just because I wear this flag does not mean I represent everything that's going on with this government."
Yeah, I think one
I'm
of them quoted Nelson Mandela, if I remember right.
Yeah, yeah. Some like, and I wish that our artists and our athletes that represent the country right now, especially in the Winter Olympics, would be more overt with it. Be like, dog, I don't support. Like, I support our flag. I support my teammates. But I do not represent a rapist. This the Epstein's best friend, child rapist, war criminal fraud, like him and JD Vance, who's also there with his immigrant wife, who got booed, and also a story that shout out to Democracy Now, and shout out to Kyle Kalinske, and shout out to Dropsite. JD Vance was there in Italy, and he was there with ICE, and with American ICE, and the Italian police was like, no, you're not. You cannot bring them. And there was massive protests saying that they don't want
Yeah, yeah.
Yet, when you Google it, because I was trying to Google it before the show, not mentioned at all. It's not covered,
Hmm. Yeah.
press. Shout out to Drop Site News. Shout out to More Perfect Union. Shout out to The Guardian, um, Democracy Now, Secular Talk, because they all brought it up. Because that's where I had to go. I had to go to alternative news sites to find it. But
Yeah,
no, Jake Vance got booed badly.
yeah. This is not a good look. And
Dog,
yeah, the interesting too, like thing about like just you bring up like the ice thing, and it's like why is ice going to Italy? And I still couldn't really parse out exactly why. It feels like a deliberate, almost like a deliberate antagonization because I can't understand why you would send immigration enforcement to the Olympics. But yeah, like the response from the Europeans and Italians, by the way, who like they're under a far right government right now. But their response is basically, we don't want murderers in our streets. It's like it's like very very clear and direct, and a huge backlash to that.
yeah, um, absolutely. I'm. It's good to see. It's good to see that one other countries are like, no, we're not allowing your fascism. We already dealt with this. We dealt with fascism in
Yeah.
Italy in particular. It's like we've seen this story before. We don't want it, and that's amazing.
Mhm. Yeah, but yeah, I will say again, the Super Bowl, well, how I was gonna cap this off, but yeah, again, it is, really like nothing too shocking or surprising, other than just it really just does expose um that false idea, like that's, oh, we're the silent majority. It's like, no, y'all not. You are not. you know, you are in power, but uh the people want something else. They do not want to
Yeah,
they don't want to watch Kid Rock lip sync to a bunch of paid extras. I'm sorry.
yeah. No, I also want to say this, because also uh, the Super Bowl is also outside of the one-sided beating that we saw. Go Seahawks! I was rooting for the Seahawks. The
Oh yeah.
Patriots owner is a giant Zionist and is a monster. And yeah, go Seahawks! It's Seahawks all day. Even though I'm a Detroit Lions person, I was rooting for the Seahawks, right?
Mhm.
It's Midwest, like how it breaks down for me. It's Michigan versus everybody, and then when Michigan's not in the game, it's Midwest versus everybody. Okay,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
when the Midwest is not participating, is whatever team I like, and I like the Seahawks. So like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that also, but there's two other things real quick. 50 cents petty. That commercial from DoorDash was hilarious. If you caught the shade, you caught the shade. If you didn't, it's fine. Um, but the Epstein victims took out a Super Bowl ad, and it was
Really,
powerful,
I didn't hear about this.
very powerful. It was a very powerful ad, and it was basically talking about, no, we need the release of all of the files. and we need transparency. We need accountability. It was basically calling out the inaction of our government, and it was amazing. It was something that it's something that should be shown on every news program and on every channel from now until they release every file, and then afterwards, because I'm tired of seeing DraftKings and Poly Market and Kelchi and all these other Bitcoin investors and all these other things that are constant commercials. And what we just found out because of the Epstein files, Epstein invested 70% of his wealth into Bitcoin, in
Mm, yeah.
cryptocurrencies. So since 2015, fam, uh, people who have been investing in this alternative money help create the sex pedophile ring that QAnon was talking about. And that's the scary part. And that's the scary part. That cryptocurrency was basically being used to help fund Elite Sex Crimes Incorporated. elite,
Yeah,
elite,
yeah. I
elite,
think everybody's
elite.
like avoided Bitcoin. Like there's just always some like kind of shady or under um kind of suspicious about it, and like that confirms some. It's like, yeah, it's like,
That came out during the Epstein files. That,
yeah,
that 4chan, and 8chan, all of those
yeah,
alt right sites,
yeah.
fam.
By the way, like not to offend anybody who actually uses Bitcoin. I'm kind of a luddite. Like I just I keep that money in the mattress. I don't know, but
Yeah, man. So like, yeah, it's just one of those. It's just one of those, bro. Like I'm sitting here like, nah, bro. It's we can be better. We can do better. We can be better. We can be better.
yeah. Well, I guess with that, I was trying to think what we're so some other things that have been going on. I well, you we were so we talked a lot about Epstein last week. I had kind of a quick hit, and this is actually something that is old news, but kind of looping things back to Kalamazoo. So we spent a lot of time on this program talking about like the Foundation for Excellence, and um, we might maybe we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of that. We should do like a historic breakdown or something. But especially a lot of our earlier episodes in the late 2010s, we devoted a lot of airtime to talking about it. And something that kind of got jogged in my memory because I was kind of just like almost as a joke. I'm like I just posted on my Facebook. It's like, well, the Bills are not in the Epstein files. Turns out they took over Kalamazoo for the love of the game. They just, but one thing that I did remember is Bill Parfet. Bill Parfet has his own files. He was one of the main guys who started the Foundation for Excellence, one of our local billionaires, and I mean he's got his own kind of not so great track record. He used to be on the board of Monsanto. He's part of Rick Snyder's political team in his pack, but there's also like a story that dropped back in like 10 years ago. We're on the 10th anniversary of this, the Parfet files, if you will, and is an allegation made by Shuang Zhang, who was a female business partner, who she alleged some really heinous sexual abuse at the hands of Bill Parfet, and this was coming out right around the same time that the city was finalizing the Foundation for Excellence. I remember going to a city commission meeting and like bringing this up. It's like we are handing reins over to this apparatus designed by somebody who did this, and I will not. I'm not going to share details from it because it's gross. It's of a level of stuff in the Epstein files talking about drugging, sexual abuse, etc. Um, but it's a reminder. I think we do need this reminder that, hey, the stuff we've been seeing from Epstein is gross, but billionaire impunity begins at home. We have had Kalamazoo was rocked with a similar scandal 10 years ago, and it got settled out of court. Nothing happened. The foundation is active. Our city budget is effectively privatized. And it was done by an individual who, much like the billionaires redacted in the Epstein files, moved through with a sense of impunity. They could do whatever they wanted to whomever they wanted. This particular individual named Zhang, and we're living with legacy of that. And one of the things I worry about with the Epstein stuff is that we're just going to compartmentalize that. That's just going to be another thing in the back of our attic that we have to what's the word? It's on the tip of my tongue. We have to compartmentalize. We have to come out. It's like, oh yeah, our country's run by pedophile rapists. I'm just gonna keep that in the old noggin and try not to let it drive me insane. And I say that because that's what has happened here. That news story dropped. People paid attention to it for a little bit. Bill Parfet kind of stepped away from certain things, but I mean, his fingerprints are all over the foundation, and it's pretty much forgotten now. And the problem is, like, we see accountability for the Epstein files happening all over the rest of the world. Keir Starmer is being told to resign, not because he's in the files, but he's associated with someone in the files. Whereas in America, it's basically, a lot of people are getting very loud. Look at what these rich people are getting away with. And they're getting away with it. Nothing's happening. And yeah, yeah, there's not really like a happy addendum or epilogue to that particular observation, but I just thought it was worth mentioning. Like, we had our own billionaire with his own files, and it is effectively in the dustbin of history. And I think, like, that is just, there's a real danger that, you know, again, because we are being battered on all sides with our own personal struggles and with more atrocious news. We might be going to war with Iran any day now. So there's a way that the news cycle just rotates onto the next thing. But, we can't afford to forget about it. This is like the biggest scandal in the history of this country. And, while if you're a scholar of history, this kind of stuff has been going on. There's trafficking out of Indian reservation schools, slavery. The elite pedophile cabal has been a feature, not necessarily a bug, of the American project since the get-go. But we've never had, like, literally millions of receipts that we can just pour
I mean,
over.
let's be honest and thorough, dog. The founding fathers of this country were sex trafficking, rapists, pedophiles. Like, we're not doing that. Not during Black History Month. We're not going to act like the transatlantic slave trade was not human trafficking. Yes, these farmers that came here and created the Constitution and made the one thing that was good with the Constitution, that it can always be changed and amended because they did not know everything. We're not going to act like those founders did not human traffic women, children, men, and did not sexually assault and rape women, children, and men. They
Mhm.
also cannibalize women and children and men. And so the most horrific ideas that you see in the Epstein files are things that the founders of this country did. It's just that we cannot ignore it because it's happening also in real time. That the people who are doing it are also still alive and not being punished. That's the issue now, is that because laws have changed now, those people should be being held accountable. They're not. And that's the thing that for me, we're not doing that, especially during Black History Month. We're not gonna do that.
Oh
We're
no,
gonna
no, absolutely.
we're gonna tell the truth. Like we're going to tell the truth. Yes, the dead slave masters that y'all have on y'all money also were human traffickers, and that's what it is. But we can be better than this. That's what Black liberation is always about, anyway. This is the reason why. Uh, that's one of the reasons why mutual aid organizations talking about like the food co-op and things of that nature, like things like that. When it comes to the reason why you don't hear when we talk about the Black Panthers that the Black Panthers was a Marxist socialist organization, and
Hmm.
that they put together mutual aid organizations because they understood that if we're going to fight back, we need to be able to protect those who are on the front lines and also everyday Black Americans and everyday just disenfranchised Americans, Black Americans in particular, but all disenfranchised Americans. This is the reason why we need to spend our time educating and informing and elevating and also putting in that work so that we can resist this fascist regime, what's going on.
Hmm. Yeah, again, like it's important to understand this as not just like one particular scandal. And I think a lot of the media is trying to do is they're just like it was just this one just evil gnarly dude. And that's kind of falling apart because they're just like the tendrils and connections are just go you've even had like voices like Thomas Massey and who like have only gotten like a tiny little percent of like who might be redacting those files, and they're basically saying this could bring the whole system down if we get those names unredacted. And to their credit, they are trying to unredact them. Hopefully, they don't like get in a car accident or something in the next few
Oh God!
months. Oh yeah.
Let's not speak that into existence.
Yeah. If you're not listening on the radio, I was doing like the little finger quotes. I said
uh,
car accident. Yeah, so there's a history of that too. Yeah, so not to sound. I mean, in recent memory, Boeing literally like assassinated a whistleblower, and then that just like just went totally just got gobbled up by the news cycle. So yeah, or I guess I should say allegedly, because a whistleblower from Boeing just died in a very mysterious circumstances right when before they were going to testify. Um, so yeah,
I know. I take the Malcolm X thing like is the Malcolm X approach. Look, I'm for truth no matter who says it, and I'm for justice no matter who is for and who is against. I want people, and I want people to have you know be given, like I said earlier in the beginning of the episode. I want people to be given grace because when people mess up, they mess up, right? And that you're held accountable. It's the call out and call in philosophy, right? Get called out, take your lashings, take your responsibility, but then get called in. What are you going to do to fix this situation? Are you going to do something better? Are you actively trying to do better? If you're not, then no, then you can go away, and we don't need you. But it needs to be both, right? We need to call outs feel good, but call ins fix community, right? And that's how we should be moving and acting. I don't know. I personally cannot speak on the particular files with the particular billionaire in our city because I haven't looked into it personally myself. But yeah, I want justice for those who are seeking it. You know what I'm saying? I want it should we should know. We should know, right?
mhm,
Um
absolutely.
but there was a few other things. There was a few other stories that I want to get to because I know we don't have a lot of time. There's a few other stories that we definitely should speak on or speak about.
All right,
Um,
yeah.
it was in our group chat. Wait, hold on. Wait, now I gotta pull up the group chat. Um, uh, where is our group chat? Is our group chat deleted? No, okay, it's not deleted.
No, no, it's there.
I was like,
CIA deleted our group chat, yeah, folks. I'm sorry.
no, like, no, I'm trying to find the um. So there's been some whistleblowers talking about what's going on in some of the detention camps.
Oh,
Um,
that's right. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. Chill, you know, there's been some whistleblowers that's been speaking out in the media. Um, I'm trying to pull up one of the videos. Shout out to again, I'm gonna shout out Kyle Kolinski, Secular Talk. He did a whole segment about this on his channel. He's out here doing the Lord's work, you know what I mean? Um there was a I'm trying to see if it's CNN or I know it's Dropside News spoke about it. One of the ICE facilities in Baltimore said that they were having women and children laying in feces. They didn't have sanitary sanitary products for women, right? So they was making women wear diapers. One of the children got sick. Was a 5-year old got sick. Um, but the ICE detention officers did not give her the medicine. Like she caught like a really bad disease, like was having seizures and stuff, but they would not give that child their medicine. When people like Francesco Verantini and others were saying that these are concentration camps, these detention centers are acting like the Nazi concentration camps. They're acting like the Japanese internment camps here in America. They're acting like the buck breaking barns and stuff from slavery. This is America acting as America. As much as we are associated with Nazis, America's been doing this type of behavior to those that are in jail, those who are in prison, and those that they always felt that was undesirable. And the stories are horrifying.
By the
The
way, just as a little bit of dark historical continuity, some of you have probably heard that they're really expanding operations, trying to build or what's the not revitalize, rehab, uh, but basically like create more detention center space, or really like building up more concentration camp stock. And one of the things that we've seen the government doing in recent months is they are working on renovating uh, uh, basically old forts and camps that historically were used to detain Lakota prisoners. I think this was over in Minnesota or somewhere in the Great Plains. And then there's also over in California, they're reopening camps that were originally used to detain um, the Japanese during World War II. It's not even a metaphor at this point. They're literally it's literally like colonial history is um it's again as we I think especially demagogues like Trump and American media more broadly always try to like history happens in a vacuum. What happened yesterday does not affect today. But when you're literally seeing some of the worst crimes in American history getting reopened for future crimes, I think that should really put really put the thread through the needle for you when it comes to um, just how history is coming back with a vengeance here in the U.S. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's two stories in particular that I wanted to highlight. Um, One, the Latino dude that had the tattoo on himself that was singing the song that "Oh my God, I will vote for Donald Trump." That guy, yeah, he got deported. That's not a joke, not a punchline. Is that like as much as I want to be like mess around and find out, right? F around and find out. Like, how many of the Latinos for Trump, the Asians for Trump, these immigrants for Trump, how many of them that praised 45, 47 and is now getting sent somewhere that they ain't never been before?
But I didn't vote for this. It's like, what did you think you were voting for? He told y'all
Yeah,
what he was going to do. They literally had a player's guide for it. Project
yeah,
2025. Like, get out of
yeah.
here.
Um, it's that story that I want to highlight, and there's also the story. Shout out to we're gonna shout out to CBS. A Georgia Army vet, a 50. This is a 50-year Army vet in America. He lives in Georgia. A Georgia Army vet was deported to Jamaica after 50 years service in the United States Army. That this is shameful. The family of a Georgia Army vet. This is from the article. Family of Georgia Army vet is now fighting to bring him back to the United States after he was deported to Jamaica, despite having an active appeal. Um, uh, Godfrey Wade has been living in the United States for more than 50 years before he was taken into immigration and customs enforcement custody. He remains in custody for nearly 5 months before his deportation. This man served in the United States Army for 50 years.
50, not 15, not
Yes,
5, 50,
for
50
half
years.
for half a century, he protected this country from from uh from from villains, foreign and domestic, for over 50 years. 50 years. That means he saw he saw Carter, he saw Reagan, he saw Bush, he saw Clinton, he saw Bush again, Obama, 45, Joe Brandon, Joe Biden, and then 45 again. I mean 47 again. And now they took this man who served our country and they deported him, a black man. This is a black man, a Jamaican man. He's an American, regardless of his paperwork and immigration status. This is a black man that they deported, and he served our country. And this is coming from the same party that said we should be respecting veterans. That's the
Oh,
context
yeah.
I want.
Mhm.
I want to give you. This is the same Republican Party that will tell you we need to respect our elders and we need to respect the truth. You need to salute the flag. You need to give nothing but love and respect to the men and women who put their lives on the line to protect us, so for us to have freedom. And look how they treat one of us.
Yeah.
I'm praying that this man gets back to his family, but that brother, Mr. Wade, deserves better.
Mhm. Well, Lawrence, with that, I think I might wrap things up a little early. I got a couple of quick things to do before the next program, but were there is there anything you wanted to touch on before we wrap it up?
Yeah. I mean, Doc, this is Black History Month, right? I've been speaking on it, right? Um, so wow, during the Black History Month, and I'm gonna start doing this every time I start coming on the show. We're gonna give y'all some books and some reading recommendations for
Yes,
things
yes.
that y'all should be doing so that we can um be better as a society because black liberation and just liberation in general, liberation movements across the world, but especially here in America, we have been fighting against fascist ideology and fascist programming since we got here. So I mean, it only makes sense for us to read about read from the people who are on the ground putting in that work, right? So while we have this program. So the Wretched of the Earth from France Fanon, fantastic book. If you haven't read it, please do. Um, Black Power, the Politics of Liberation from Kwame Ture and Charles V. Hamilton. Where do we go from here? From Martin Luther King Jr. Feminism is for everybody, and The Will to Change from Bell Hooks, fantastic book, and Freedom is a constant struggle from Angela Davis. Those are just a few books that I would love for our audience to make sure that during Black History Month, check those out. We'll make sure to put them in the doobly doo below, in the description below, for books, for things that we should be doing actively.
Mhm.
This is there's a literacy crisis in America, and we should be working on fixing that problem every chance we get. And if you all of those books, I think, are also in all of those books are also in on audiobook form. Um,
And you find
Also,
most of those selections online for free too.
yeah, you can also find them in the public library. Also, if you have
Mhm.
not read
Yep.
Michelle
KPL.
Alexander's,
Yeah.
yeah, if you haven't read Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow, or if you haven't read the 1619 Project by Nicole Hannah Jones, um, yeah, yeah, you should check those out. You should definitely check those out.
All right. Well, thank you everybody. And yeah, we'll probably we'll have some more reading recommendations throughout the month too. That's a really important one. Um,
Now,
yep.
I'm gonna start doing every time we get on the show. At the end, this is something that we're gonna start doing at the end.
Yeah.
We should be doing at the end of the show for everybody. We need to be educating and elevating. That's
Mhm.
what we're gonna do. Let that marinate. Kind of have a good day.
All right. All right. Y'all have a great day. Y'all been listening to Media Cyphers.org. You'll also find us online at Media Cyphers on Facebook, YouTube. Shit.
All right, brother.
All
Peace.
right. Thanks, Lawrence. You have a good one.
Yeah, peace.
Peace.